We'll open this video up with a tweet from Dan Riccio. The Vancouver Canucks front office did well, cleaning up some of the old regime's mistakes, but now they've had to dump a few of their own. Mikheyev, Joshua, Heinen, and Desharnais have all been moved in the last 15 months purely as cap dumps. The reply goes out there and says, "I'd rather them cut ties with these players if they don't work out than keep them around." To which Riccio replies saying, "It's good that the Canucks are quick to move on, but it's happening way too often." So just the other day, the Vancouver Canucks and the Toronto Maple Leafs made a trade that I think a lot of Canucks fans generally don't like, and a trade that a lot of Leafs fans do like. Now, I'm not going to toss a blanket over the entire fan base of one of these teams and say that everybody in Vancouver hates the Joshua trade, but I will say, despite the fact that I am a lot more neutral on the deal, there are, I would say, a lot more Canucks fans who are very pessimistic on the deal. Man, I can't believe they traded away Joshua. How could they trade away a heart and soul kind of guy? There's been a lot of that in this Canucks fan base. But today, in this video, what I wanted to do was take more of a different approach to talking about the Joshua trade and how this could be, I'm not saying it is, but it could be an indication as to a certain type of fumble the Vancouver Canucks have exhibited time in and time out. I wanted to give a big shout out over to Sapster. He's a buddy of mine, one of the best gosh darn NHL players on the planet, and I know what you're thinking, NHL players? No, like NHL, the video game, EA Sports players. He's literally one of the best in the world, and he does a lot of stuff on Twitter about the Canucks. This was a tweet that I thought was very, very interesting from the trade of Dakota Joshua to Toronto. So to recap, Sap says, Rick Dhaliwal comes out last summer and says that Rick Tocchet has let management know they can't lose Zadorov and Dakota Joshua. Vancouver signs Dakota Joshua to a contract number that insiders have recently reported made them uncomfortable. Tocchet leaves anyway, and the Canucks trade Dak for cents on the dollar. Terrific! And yes, that is a commentary point that I do remember. Sap actually goes out there and asks Dhaliwal, like, if I'm misquoting you, let me know, or if you would like to clarify something. But a year ago, it was actually pointed out by Dhaliwal that in the entire negotiation season for Dakota Joshua, Nikita Zadorov, and Lindholm, and all these other guys, there was this idea floating around saying that Rick Tocchet was adamant to Canucks management staff, hey, you guys can't let Zadorov go, you can't let Joshua go, you can't let both of them go. You have to keep at least one. And the contract that Dakota Joshua got, $3.25 million a year for 4 years. I mean, this was a contract signed on June 27th, 2024, that was already being reported on as being a little bit heavy. The Canucks were not really comfortable with giving Dakota Joshua $3.25 million a year, especially when you look at some of the numbers. Yes, it is true, Joshua had a very good season. 32 points, 18 goals, 63 games played. In the playoffs, he had 8 points in 13 games, 4 goals. All of those goals were huge, big goals. He got the party started in Game 1 with the huge comeback victory, and then I think the empty net against Nashville. Also got some goals against Edmonton. Dakota Joshua, alongside of Connor Garland and Teddy Bluger, he was a monster. Garland with Joshua and Lindholm in the playoffs, that was a monster line, too. No disrespect, of course, to Teddy Bluger, but Elias Lindholm was just that much better. Joshua was so good in the playoffs and in the regular season that he earned the dollar amount that he got. $3.25 million was a little bit much for Vancouver, but they paid him anyway because they thought, all right, the coach is really, really praising for this guy. He really wants him back. We just lost Zadorov because that guy signed a big money long-term deal in Boston. He's having some problems there too. So you're already seeing some of the contract negotiations fall apart. You're already getting the sense that he's going to go to market. So Dakota Joshua, what can you do right now before free agency begins? Just got to give Dakota Joshua his money. And that's what the Canucks did. And here's the thing about that. Joshua had a crazy good year with a super high shooting percentage that I think a lot of Canucks fans were already saying, not necessarily that Joshua would fall off a cliff after signing the deal, but they kind of acknowledged that, hey, a 21% shooting percentage is not really sustainable, and you can't really project anybody to doing that over and over and over again, year in and year out. But Dakota Joshua, with his net front presence, his ability to find open space, and his hands in tight, there was a reason his shooting percentage was so damn high. And I think a lot of that does have to do with the fact that a lot of other Canucks players and their shooting percentages were so high too. But the point that Sap is making here is that Vancouver re-signed Dakota Joshua because they could not lose out on him and Zadorov. Rick Tocchet really wanted to push this to go through. The Canucks gave Dakota Joshua so much money that they were kind of uncomfortable with it. Tocchet left anyways, and then they traded Dakota Joshua for cents on the dollar. It's not even like Joshua is some superstar, but this is now the second time Vancouver has kept someone on a shooting percentage bender because Tocchet and or management was convinced they could either unlock or reprogram them, only for them to be dumped within a year. Andrei Kuzmenko was the other guy who had this similar sort of pattern happen to him. Might I remind you, for Andrei Kuzmenko, he was a totally different situation, but kind of similar. He signed a contract with the Vancouver Canucks out of free agency, $950,000. 1 year, one-way contract. Bruce Boudreau was the coach. They convinced him to come over from Russia. He had 74 points and 39 goals. A lot of Canucks fans said, all right, Kuzmenko is scoring a lot of goals. Like, he is getting fed up right in front. He's getting these rebounds. He's getting these tips. He's scoring a lot. And he got 39 goals, so that's great. But here's the thing. They re-signed him, $5.5 million. They had a new coach in Rick Tocchet. And he absolutely did not fit the Tocchet style at all. Kuzmenko brought in on this $5.5 million deal. He's played on the fourth line, third line by Tocchet. He doesn't get any time with Petey. Petey's playing with Mikheyev and Lafferty for most of the year. And Andrei Kuzmenko totally fizzles away in what was the really good 23-24 year. So the Canucks, after shelling out all of these resources, money, time, and development to Andrei Kuzmenko at the NHL level, they're like, all right, sorry, you just don't fit the Tocchet style. Goodbye. They sent him, Yoni Yermo, a first and a fourth, and Hunter Brustevich over to Calgary for Elias Lindholm. And now you think about it and you say, all right, this is like kind of twice where the Vancouver Canucks had really good value out of guys. Last year was Dakota Joshua. 2 years ago was Andrei Kuzmenko, and after seeing these guys go down and not really get the best out of their bodies and the best out of their time on ice, the Canucks kind of let these players marinate in that state a little too long, and then they pulled the trigger, sending them away in almost cap dump-esque deals. Now, Andrei Kuzmenko wasn't entirely that because the Canucks got Lindholm in return, but they still shelled out a top prospect in Brustevich, a first-round pick. And you can debate that Kuzmenko was just an extra scrap in that move. Now, you can say that his career path has been a lot different since that trade. He wasn't too great in Calgary, went to Philadelphia, then went to LA, and then he re-signed in LA. They liked him there. That's great. Whoop-de-doo. Good for Kuzmenko. But I did want to bring this up just to ask the question if you as a Canucks fan are comfortable with the way management has been doing their business, how they hold on to guys, how they let them play a lot worse, and then they just send them away for cheap. One may say it's admirable for the Canucks to be able to read their mistakes and be like, okay, yeah, it's not working. We would rather shell this money elsewhere. He didn't really work out, and we're not patient enough to let him come back to form. We don't think it's worth our time. Let's trade him now. Let's get the cap space. Let's go after somebody that we're more interested in the short term. Sorry, Joshua, but You're making the bag, and we weren't really comfortable with you making that amount of money anyway, so sayonara over to Toronto. How do you feel about the Dakota Joshua trade from the financial point of view, and how do you think this goes hand in hand with the Andrei Kuzmenko trade from 2 years ago? 2 years ago? 2 seasons ago? 1 year ago? Thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.